Work, making a living, providing for loved ones, building for the future. A source of identity, of pride and dignity for a man, a woman, a family, a community. At times, employment is put at risk by projects to develop a region or country. Dams, bridges, roads, mines, sanitation systems, urban development, and other projects often force people to move. Those whose livelihoods have served them well may find their skills less useful in a new setting. In the countryside, families who lose farms frequently have less land or less productive land after the move.
At the other place we had avocado, guayabas, peaches, lemons, all that. And bananas. We had everything. Here, when we plant, it doesn't survive. We have already tried to plant, but it doesn't work out.
And in both rural and urban areas, small entrepreneurs relocated to areas far away from their usual customers must continue to make ends meet while building a new clientele. At the same time, displaced families who lose their social support networks as friends and relatives are scattered often have a hard time getting reestablished.
My family and my brothers were moved to the new town of Querétaro. My parents are there also. My mother-in-law went to a different town.
Involuntary resettlement is traumatic. However, it can be successful if displaced people are helped to recover what they have lost.
Before the reservoir, we led the normal lives of rice farmers in this area. Now, since the creation of the Churrada Reservoir, our lives are much improved.
When economic rehabilitation is the focus of a resettlement program, it helps the displaced people to begin a productive new life with hope and dignity. Restoring resettlers' incomes is one of the more difficult aspects of resettlement operations. Yet, this is also the most necessary task if relocated people are not to be impoverished by development. A realistic and well-planned program can help make up for material loss and restore people's productive capabilities.
It's a better life now. Before the reservoir, we were just simple land farmers. Now, we have a whole new environment.
Several factors underlie successful economic recovery programs in resettlement operations. First, planning for income regeneration needs to begin early, preferably at the design stage of the main development project. Second, the affected people need to participate fully in the recovery process. They should have a say in what jobs, businesses, and training programs they need and want, and in what land and housing most closely suits their way of life and culture.
En las asambleas, pues siempre hay muchas amas de casa.
We would go home to our wives and ask them what they wanted. Then we would go back to the commission and say, you have to build it this way, because that is what the women want.
Third, an explicit and feasible plan should be set up based on a realistic evaluation of people's assets, income, and skills, and what they need to get started and survive the early years after resettlement. For farmers, this means replacing land lost with new land. Time after time, such in-kind compensation has proven to be the most, and sometimes the only, effective means of successfully reestablishing rural families. At the same time, the project needs to provide resettlers with a mix of employment opportunities. This is important because families often depend on more than one endeavor for income, and because not all rural families, even in the countryside, are farmers. When everyone is given the opportunity to make a living in a way that best suits their skills and interests, the family and the whole community flourish.
Since we began working in cage aquaculture, we've been able to send our children to school, to go to Mecca, and to buy goods I could never afford before, like a car. And I've opened a store to sell fish feed.
Fourth, economic rehabilitation should include everyone. Each and every person capable of earning a living should be offered a wide range of rehabilitation options. These options include land for land compensation, employment opportunities, specialized vocational training, and grants, loans, and incentives to set up new businesses. Finally, support for new economic recovery really only begins after the resettlers have relocated. Rehabilitation requires development support and financial plans, even after the main development project is complete. For example, farmers working under new conditions may need help in adjusting to new planting methods, and shop owners may need advice in fine-tuning their prices and setting up their inventories for some time after their relocation. Let's go through the options for economic recovery. For farmers everywhere, land is a prized possession. Farmers usually want to continue to work the land because it's what they know how to do best.
We have been discussing with the land trustees. We have series of meetings with them, and in personally many of the meetings I have attended, and I have asked them that what you want from us. We are here to help you, and they have told that we want to cultivate in the land.
Providing farmers with land of equal value or quantity is no easy task. In fact, it has proven to be one of the largest stumbling blocks in many resettlement operations. Therefore, land identification should begin early, so there is sufficient time for legal and procedural actions in locating land. Several different approaches have been used to identify land for resettlement. Land identification committees made up of resettlers, NGOs, and government representatives have been used in many projects around the world, both to identify and buy land. In other cases, the development agency itself, or an NGO, takes over the entire process or acts as a land broker. Governments are sometimes able to release state lands for a resettlement program. However, these lands may not be of high quality. Land officially available may already be settled by indigenous groups or people with customary use rights. After relocation, farmers often find themselves with smaller plots. This often means farming must be intensified and a new farming system set up so that farmers can make a living from working the land. However, relocated people adjusting to the trauma of resettlement may not be receptive to a major overhaul of their agricultural methods. For this reason, change should be gradual. For example, in cases where entirely new cropping regimes are not required, new or higher value crops should be introduced one at a time. The old water regime should be kept if possible, and the shift to irrigated agriculture should be undertaken over a period of time to allow farmers to adjust. While these considerations must be taken into account, replacing land with new land is without a doubt the most effective approach toward helping farm families reestablish themselves. However, it's important that people be given title to land that is productive and that market access be good. There are a number of other economic options to consider when land for land is insufficient or inappropriate. One way to help resettlers is to give them preference in hiring for the various jobs that are created by a major development project. This includes not only the usual manual labor jobs, but even more importantly, skilled craft jobs, office positions, managerial posts, and service employment.
On the one hand, we are very much looking forward to the work which this project will provide to the community. We are hoping that this work will help to lift us from our poverty, to help us change our lives and to give our families a better future.
Opening the array of short-term employment opportunities to resettlers helps cushion the loss they suffer in moving. This approach, though, requires dedication and planning, as this project in Turkey demonstrates. In this project, the contractor kept a list of all local residents, most of them living within 60 kilometers of the site. When job openings occurred, the contractor hired local applicants over others. To ensure the success of the program, the contractor also established training programs and literacy classes. Local people who excelled were promoted to new positions. Over 5 years, this project employed 8,000 local workers, including laborers, carpenters, welders, and drivers, payroll clerks, secretaries, and other office personnel. In projects all over the world, this approach has brought many benefits. It helps resettlers minimize their loss of income and assets. Workers learn skills they can later put to use in businesses of their own. In addition, once the project is completed, the agency may be able to hire some of the trained workers on a permanent basis. Finally, local hiring also favors the local market and economy and makes social conflict less likely as fewer newcomers compete for jobs within local communities. Contractor commitment is the key to successful programs of this type. The contractor must establish and abide by clear hiring rules, and he must put training programs in place for the local workforce. Where the contractor strives to assist the local population in these ways, these types of programs can succeed. A longer-term and more permanent option for income regeneration is informal sector employment. Padma, an Indian resettler, is a barber. He and many others, including shop owners, artisans, and marketeers, all belong to the so-called informal sector. These small businesses are another source of employment for resettlers. One advantage of informal sector jobs is that they make use of people's existing skills, so that resettlers need less training and technical assistance. However, a disadvantage is that small businesses have a high failure rate. And in areas where the economy is not growing, there's the danger that the addition of new small businesses may further split the economic pie. Nevertheless, in many instances, a well-planned economic rehabilitation program can provide good business opportunities for resettlers willing to take risks.
Three
communities were brought together here. Business for me has improved a lot since we moved because everyone is closer together.
A good example of systematic economic rehabilitation is this Indian development project. First, managers hired a small staff with expertise in local business. The staff went door to door asking who wished to start up a business and what kind of business they would set up. Not too surprisingly, most people chose businesses that had already proven successful in the area. Barber shops, tea shops, and roadside stands, carpentry, brickmaking, and bicycle repair. A wide variety of common services and skills were all high on people's lists. The managers then offered all prospective entrepreneurs the same rehabilitation package, a one-time grant, and helped getting loans from local banks. It was up to the banks to approve the loans, and the borrowers were responsible for repaying them.
In fact, through our good offices, through our intervention, this Union Bank has given about 1.86 lakhs loan to our land trustees.
Success in informal sector employment programs depends on a few key elements. First, because of the risks involved, people must willingly choose to start their own small businesses. Second, the program should encourage a wide variety of enterprises to avoid flooding the local market. Third, the program may give the entrepreneurs a one-time grant to use as startup money, but it must be made clear to all loan recipients that they are responsible for repayment of the loans. Finally, the project authority typically engages a local organization to undertake this work. This agency facilitates contact with local banks and provides needed technical assistance. A more formal rehabilitation option is employment in a small enterprise. Sometimes, small industries can be enticed to set up shop in a resettlement area, greatly improving the economic prospects for relocated people. These small industrial jobs are a good alternative for many resettlers not willing or able to work in the informal sector. A successful example of this is another project in India. Ram is an office clerk at the project. He and many others, such as assemblers, transporters, and marketers, work for small industrial and cooperative businesses, commonly known as micro-enterprises. In one case, program managers interested a local entrepreneur in setting up a fan assembly plant in the resettlers' village. The entrepreneur provided 1/4 of the startup capital from his funds. Project authorities then helped him apply to a bank for the rest. The entrepreneur had responsibility for hiring, training, management, production, and marketing. He hired local village women who now make up a major portion of his 30-member workforce. While there's no single way to design this kind of an income recovery program, two well-tested elements help make it successful. First, preference should be given to small businesses because they usually do better as they're easier to set up and don't depend for survival on national or international markets. Second, the entrepreneur is responsible for the success of the endeavor. He or she must make sure there is demand for the product or service and set up a marketing system. In this instance, the fan factory owes much of its success to proximity to a major city with high demand for its ventilation products. Agro industry can help maximize the productivity of areas surrounding certain development projects. Agro industry usually involves the processing of local agricultural products, which becomes more viable when roads are improved and infrastructure such as electricity is installed. An interesting example of combining production and processing for economic recovery is this rich fishing area in Indonesia. Here, hundreds of farmers were given grants and credits to set up aquaculture enterprises and are now making a living from these clear waters.
Here we see that they've taken this large body of water and it's worth even more than the land that they lost. You see thriving communities virtually in the middle of the lake. And people making 2 and 3 times more per hectare out of fish than they ever made out of rice. This is an amazing phenomenon to see in resettlement.
Aquaculture has a large multiplier effect, creating new jobs for fishermen's families and neighbors.
Kegiatan-kegiatan yang menunjang jaring apung di danau ini itu adanya
There is a great deal of business activity connected with the floating fish cages in these lakes. The cages require fingerlings and feeds, which require feed mills or feed industries. Also, there must be good transportation for both the feed and the fish. The farmers in Seguling have trucks to transport fish from Seguling to Jakarta and to bring feed from Jakarta to Seguling. And all of these activities have developed because of the new fisheries.
These distribution systems generate jobs for handlers, managers, accountants, truckers, marketers, and many others. In fact, in this project, 3 to 4 times as many jobs were created in the service sector as were created in aquaculture. Many other dams built in tropical areas hold the same promise as the one in Indonesia. It's important to remember that government programs can also give rehabilitation a boost while carrying out their own mission. Many successful economic rehabilitation programs actively seek out government agencies to collaborate in their efforts. Sometimes it's possible to convince managers of programs in nearby areas to expand their range of operations so that it encompasses the area of resettlement. Government credit programs can make available the capital resources people need to establish their own shops and enterprises. And some agencies can provide direct employment in small numbers. For example, local health clinics provide jobs while improving women and children's basic health care. No matter what combination of economic rehabilitation measures is used, it's important to monitor and evaluate each undertaking carefully. This type of assessment makes it possible to see where things are going poorly and, when necessary, to take corrective action. It also provides valuable information for future efforts. In every development project involving resettlement, there must be a carefully thought out and managed plan for monitoring the extent to which resettlers' incomes have been restored. There is no single formula for successful economic rehabilitation. Each people and region provide unique problems and opportunities. However, experience teaches several valuable lessons. Economic recovery among resettlers is easier where the economy of their new area is growing and offers many new opportunities. Whatever the state of the economy, income regeneration requires expertise and adequate funding. Planning must begin early and develop along with planning for the main development project. People must participate at every stage of the project. All possible sources of income must be taken into account, and all members of a family and a community must be considered. These are the elements essential for rehabilitation, which is the key to successful resettlement. Without land to grow crops, jobs, training, and capital needed to start new enterprises, families and villages cannot survive. By treating economic rehabilitation as a development initiative rather than a welfare project, managers can assure that the people who have sacrificed the most, those forcibly resettled, will also benefit from development projects. Successful economic rehabilitation not only enables those resettled to recover their income and standard of living, it also allows them to regain control of their destiny and to take up their lives once more with pride and dignity.
Mama.